What technique do I use to astral project? Well, this is a question that I'm often asked, and in this video I'm going to share a rather unusual and pretty cool technique that I recently used, and it involves a very special little being. Hi everyone, it's Rosalie here from Rosalie Yoga, where I help you lay the foundations for personal growth through yoga nidra and astral projection. Well, I'm often asked to share my own experiences with astral projection. I've had out-of-body experiences since I was a child spontaneously, but then have gone on to have hundreds of out-of-body experiences. And the way I practice is very much rooted in the ancient practice of yoga nidra. Because when you practice yoga nidra, you're brought into an altered state in a very natural way, in this state where your body's deeply relaxed and your mind is awake. You might like to think the body's asleep and the mind is awake. It's this mind awake, body asleep state. And it's a very kind of thin window. You're really flirting with that in-between state between being awake and being asleep. Once you're in the mind awake, body asleep state, you use an exit technique to exit the physical body. And the actual technique I've used has evolved a lot over the years. You know, at the beginning, I would have very intense vibrations. I mean, almost violent vibrations, very frightening, accompanied with sleep paralysis. And then what would happen is I would just simply sit up out of my physical body and walk away, or I would float up towards the ceiling. I could turn around and see myself. As I say, this has really evolved over the years, and now these vibrations that I feel are just very, very, very subtle. They're not intense at all, and I kind of sometimes just phase out. It's a kind of, it's not really an exit, but it's a phasing out, it's a shifting down into another state. But as I said, I recently had such a cool experience. I really wanted to share it with you, and it involved one of my cats, Millie, and I was practicing my out-of-body practice in bed. It was nighttime. It was probably about 3 or 4 in the morning, and Millie came to me and she laid along my head and started to purr very, very loudly. And as I said, I was already in the mind awake, body asleep state, and something told me to tune into the frequency of her purr. So I just let myself really kind of, the only way I can describe it is enter her purr, become completely absorbed by it. So I was really resonating with the frequency of her purr, and I just let that play out. It was beautiful. It felt so good, and that in itself is just an amazing feeling. But then I just kind of swooped out. So I went from the mind awake, body asleep state, really tuning into Millie's purr, and then swooping out. And then it felt like a pop, swoop, pop. I was out of my physical body. I just walked to the big window that's in my bedroom, and I walked through it, and I dropped down into this really busy party. For some reason, very often in my experiences, I go to parties, right? Lots of people always, and I think these are kind of consensus realities, which I can talk about in a later video. Now that experience, the experience itself, wasn't particularly remarkable. It wasn't that was, you know, an incredible party that I went to or anything like that. But what was really remarkable and what really stands out for me is the way I was able to exit the body, and the way I was able to use Millie's purr, and it was just beautiful for me. And it also highlights like a few key learnings, a few things that really stood out for me that I want to share with you today that might be helpful for you in your own journey. So the first learning I really want to emphasize is that there are so many different ways to exit the physical body, and not just the more conventional ways and the things that you read about in books. You know, yes, we have the target technique, we have the rope technique, we have all these different techniques, but there are so many other techniques as well. And so really just know that you don't have to follow a conventional way. It can be something as odd, really, as tuning into the frequency of a cat. And that brings me to my second point, is to really follow your intuition, follow your inner voice. You are going to find the right way for you, the best, the easiest, the simplest way for you. Let that drop in. It was an inner voice, something within me that told me to really tune into Millie's purr. I had never done that. I had never read about it. It was just in the moment. It was probably because I was already perfectly in the mind awake, body asleep state, and it just presented itself at the right time. I listened to that inner voice and had this incredible experience because of it. So start to really notice and listen more for that inner voice, and then actually act upon it. I mean, that's the thing. It's one thing to listen, but act upon it and then just see what happens. And along those same lines is my third and final learning, and that is to really keep an open mind. When you're working with these kind of subtle energies, you're not working with the same confines and the same rules as you do here in the physical world. Really, the only thing that really limits you in these realms is yourself. It's your own limiting beliefs. It's that inner voice that pops out and says, actually, this is not possible. That critical voice, not your inner voice, that little critical voice that wants to squash everything down. Don't let it, because really keeping an open mind that anything is possible, because it truly is in these realms. And the more you are open to that, the more ideas, inspiration, insights, downloads are going to drop in that are going to guide you down your path. So just be open and be ready to receive these amazing things that are just going to unfold for you the more you practice. Now, if you're new to all of this, I have an astral projection guide, a free guide on my website, which you might like to download, and it takes you through all the steps to have an out-of-body experience. I'm going to drop a link in the description below and also somewhere up here on the screen. Now, I'd absolutely love to hear from you. Let me know what your key takeaway was, and I'd also like to know if you want to hear more about my own experiences and learnings. I normally create astral projection guided meditations to guide you to have your own experiences, but let me know if you find it helpful to hear a little bit more about my experiences as well. And if you like this video, please go ahead and give it the thumbs up and share it with anyone who you think might be interested. And I'd also be grateful if you consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Travel well, have fun, and see you next time.